All right, we are here for the second episode of the week for ASN uh, weekend recap for each class. This is Class 3A. I'm Carson Ward, the host, and we are going to go ahead and get rolling into the rankings for Class 3A. At number one, the Prescot Curly Wolves. Prescott is a team that has been pretty impressive to start this season, and they've got a lot of really athletic players. They have some impressive wins. They had a win over Salem in their game they played at Hendrix College, and that game came down to the wire, and Prescott was able to pull it out. So an impressive win for the Curly Wolves. Number two, the Boonville Bearcats. They have a very impressive group, and they have absolutely dominated in every facet. They struggled in week one against their opponent from Oklahoma, but other than that, it's been pretty smooth sailing for Boonville so far. Number three, the Rivercrest Colts. They played Forest City this week, um, and that was a game for Rivercrest that they knew was going to be challenging. Um, but nonetheless, uh, got the they got the win, and Rivercrest moves on to 3-0 to start non-conference play. At number four, the Newport Greyhounds. Newport is a team that has one of the best rushing attacks in the entire state, regardless of their classification. Um, of course, Keandre Barker is their lead back, and he's had a pretty good season so far, and he'll continue to dominate the rest of the way. And then, of course, on the outside, they have some talented receivers. Um, they were really fortunate to get uh, Amani Wren back, transferred back from Greenwood, and so that's a Newport team that has really come out and proved themselves. Had a fantastic win against a really talented Mark Tree team early in the season. They beat Batesville as well, so and they regularly put up points every week. That's going to be an offense. It's going to be a force to be reckoned with throughout the rest of the season. Number five, the Fordyce Redbugs. Um, Brendan Simmons and Cadillac Ellison, two names to watch for Fordyce. Ellison is a really talented quarterback. Simmons is a really talented linebacker for the Redbugs, and they've got it rolling in Fordyce. An impressive win over Mineral Springs a couple weeks ago. Um, in that group, really looking forward to their rivalry game against Ryzen. We'll talk about them shortly. Number six, the Bismark Lions. Bismark is a team that had a lot of returning production coming into the season, and Ben Keithley has continued right where he left off from last season. Coach DJ Keithley has them rolling. Johnny Diaz has been a terrific performer for them as well. They had an impressive win over Mineral Springs as well from Class 2A. Impressive win over Mansfield in their first game of the season, and they just keep rolling. As every game goes on, it seems like they are getting better. Um, so a lot to build on for Bismarck. Of course, they have a got a win over Glen Rose as well. That was a team that a lot of people thought was going to be pretty good. So Bismarck off to a hot start. Number seven, the Walnut Ridge Bobcats. Walnut Ridge, led by Coach Jeff Blake, and their star running back Enrique Perez. Um, they have some wins over some pretty talented teams, including East Poinsett County from Class 2A. Um, and they're just going to keep rolling. And they're going to be a team to watch out for the rest of the season. They're really looking forward to what they're going to be able to do in conference play. At number eight, the Mayflower Eagles. Mayflower is a team that beat defending Class 2A champion Bigelow by 35-0, a definitive win for Mayflower. They have a terrific front led by Hugh Tees on the offensive line, and then um, they got skill guys that can run, and they got a terrific head coach and Coach Emerson, and he's really passionate about that program and getting them to potentially make a run to Little Rock this season. Number nine, the Melbourne Bearcats. Melbourne is a team that might have surprised some people, and they have played really, really well to start off the season, and so they find their program in our top 10 for this week. And at number 10, the Rising Wildcats. Rising is a team that came out and had an impressive victory over Harmony Grove, Washita County. And since then, they've kind of been on people's radar um, as a team that might be able to make some noise in Class 3A, like I said. And they run the ball really well. That's kind of their you know, that's the way their offense runs, and that's the way that they have presented themselves this season. Going to be interesting to watch that rivalry game towards later towards the end of the season with Fordyce, um, with Cadillac Ellison and his terrific passing ability and that run game from Rising. It's going to be a terrific matchup between those two teams. So we're going to start talking game previews. Uh, I got some I got the games listed out over here, so I'll look over here periodically and look at the games going on this week. We're going to start off with Magnet Cove and Jessieville. Magnet Cove and Jessieville both 2-1. Magnet Cove is a team that has some impressive wins. They beat Garden early in the season, and Jessieville is a team that has an impressive win over 2A Mount Ida. Um, this is probably going to be a pretty close game. Um, but I'm going to have to pick Jessieville to get the victory in this one. Then you look at Mountain View and Mayflower. Mountain View is a program that's started off their season 2-1. Mayflower has started off the season 3-0. With Mayflower being ranked in the top 10, it's hard to pick against them, and so I am going to go with the Eagles of Mayflower in this game. Drew Central versus McGee. McGee 1-2 to start their season, but had an impressive win over Class 4A DeWitt. Made some noise, 122-21, I believe was the score there. And Drew Central has struggled to start the season. They're 0-3, so I'm going to pick the McGee Owls to win this game decisively. Smackover versus Harmony Grove, Washita County. Smackover got off to a hot start under head coach Don Harrison in his first season as the head coach at Smackover. And of course, Mitchell Polk, their quarterback, he's an electric player, transferred in from El Dorado in the offseason. And that's an offense that everybody's going to have to watch out for. Um, and then Harmony Grove, Washita County is a team that beat Junction City. And so, with the way that they're playing, even though they've started off their season 1-2 and Junction City is their only victory, I'm going to pick Harmony Grove, Washita County, to win this game in what should be a really fun game to be at to watch for both of those fan bases. Um, Yellville Summit against Quitman. Um, Yellville Summit 2-1, Quitman 1-2. Yellville Summit's only loss was to Hector. Um, Quitman has uh, only one win, and um, their one win was against Izard County. Um, and they have losses to Mineral Springs and Conway Christian, both from Class 2A. They only play 2A opponents in non-conference. But I am going to pick the Quitman Bulldogs to get the victory in this game. Kicking off conference play, I'm saying the Bulldogs get to 500. Newport versus Piggott. Uh, Pretty big contrast here. Newport is a team that's undefeated. They are 3-0. Piggott's a team that struggled. They're off to an 0-3 start. And I think I'm going to pick Newport to get a decisive victory in this game. A really interesting game uh, in Class 3A this week is Salem versus Melbourne. Salem is a team that has started the season 1-2, had a tough loss to Prescott earlier this season. Melbourne is a team that started off the season at 3-0. And so, you got to look at this game as one of the more intriguing ones in Class 3A this week. But I'm going to pick Salem to get the victory in this game in a very, very close game. A little bit of an upset based on our rankings as well. But I'm going to pick Salem to get the victory in this game because of their explosive offense. Hackett against Mansfield. Mansfield had a tough uh, non-conference schedule. Mentioned the game they played against Bismark. That was our ASN game of the week. Go over to our YouTube channel if you want to learn more about either of those teams and watch that game. We had a terrific live stream in week 0 covering that game. Um, and just uh, Mansfield is a program led by Coach Whit Overton, and they um, expect to do much better in conference than their non-conference record shows. And I'm going to pick them to beat Hackett this week, even though Hackett is coming off an impressive victory over Class 2A Mountainburg. Lavaca versus Greenland. Greenland has a quarterback named Slade Norwood who has been really impressive. Lavaca has struggled a little bit to get their season kicked off. They're 1-2. Greenland is 2-1. I'm going to pick Greenland to get the victory in this one because I believe that Slade Norwood's one of the more explosive quarterbacks in Class 3A, and I think that he will lead his team to victory this week. Two Rivers versus Glen Rose, matchup of two 0-3 teams. Glen Rose made a deep playoff run last season. Two Rivers has struggled the past few years to get a whole lot going. I'm going to pick Glen Rose to get the victory. Glen Rose had a tough start to non-conference play. Mentioned the loss to Bismarck earlier, um, and they're usually a pretty physical team. I think it's gonna be difficult for Two Rivers to handle that high level of physicality. And I think that with the young team that Coach Keener has at Glen Rose, they're gonna get better every week, and they're gonna show improvement every week. And I'm going to have Glen Rose getting their first victory of the season over Two Rivers. Falk versus Prescott. Um, Prescott ranked number 1 in our rankings. I'm going to have to go with Prescott in this game. Falk started the season 3-0. They have, off the top of my head, I remember they have wins over Class 2A Dirks and Class 2A Murfreesboro. Um, but with as talented of a team as Prescott has, I'm going to have to pick the Curly Wolves to get the victory in this matchup of 3-0 teams. Danville versus Paris. Both of these teams come in at 1-2. Danville's only win was against Class 2A Johnson County West Side. Last week, Danville played Hector and lost. And this is a team with head coach DJ Crane that's probably going to improve every week as well. Whenever you have a first-year head coach or you have a young team, you can say that probably more often than not. And I think that Danville will struggle this week, and I think that Paris will win this game, but I think it's going to be pretty close, and I think that Danville is going to show a lot of improvement in this game, and that they are going to have their season get on track sooner rather than later. Cutter Morning Star versus Perryville. This is an interesting one. Perryville, a lot of people picked them to be at or near the top of their conference to start the season. Had a tough loss to a very improved Atkins team last week, and Perryville and Connor Frith, who plays safety and quarterback for them. He's probably going to be too much for Cutter Morning Star to handle. So I'm going to give Perryville the victory in this game. Charleston versus West Fork. Charleston is a team that's historically been a powerhouse in Class 3A. They always have close games with Boonville. Start off their season 1-2. West Fork has started off their season 0-3. I'm going to pick Charleston to get the victory in this one and for them to get their season back on track, starting conference play with a win. Horatio versus Centerpoint. Centerpoint is an interesting team because they have started their season 3-0 and could very easily get to 4-0 with a victory over Horatio to start off conference play this week. Horatio is coming off a loss to Lafayette County. They're probably going to be a little bit down, especially with Centerpoint winning 3 straight. I'm going to pick Centerpoint to get the victory in this game. Cedarville versus Boonville. Boonville ranked number 2 in our rankings, of course, and that they're the defending state champions. They run the ball very well. Washburn is a terrific quarterback for them, and so I have them getting the victory this week over Cedarville to start off conference play. Parker's Chapel versus Bismark. Parker's Chapel is a team that has struggled. I believe that their only win is against Foreman, and played a lot of Class 2A teams to start the season. Dirks and Gurdon were a couple of them. Those are the two teams that they lost to. Bismarck at 3-0 had a really tough non-conference schedule, and they were able to get out of there without a scratch. And so I'm going to pick Bismarck to get the victory in this game. Barton versus Fordyce. Um, Barton is a team that has started off the season 2-1. Played a couple of Class 2A opponents to start the season, but Fordyce has just been so impressive in 3A. And 3A, of course, they've made their way towards the top of our rankings. They're in the top 5 now, and they just have such an explosive offense and defense. Such an athletic team year in and year out. I'm going to give Fordyce the victory in this one. They're going to start off their season 4-0. Osceola and Hoxie. Osceola is a team that started off the season 1-1. Hoxie 1-2. This is probably going to be a pretty close game, but I have Hoxie getting the victory in this one. Probably going to be, like I said, a close game, a tight game, but I think that Hoxie gets the victory in this game. Atkins versus Episcopal. Atkins is a team that had their perfect record derailed not last week, but 2 weeks ago, by our number 1 ranked team in Class 2A in Conway Christian. And that's a team that has improved drastically since last season and since the last couple of years, really. Being able to watch them in person, I can tell you they're a physical group. They're a pretty athletic group, and they're well coached. Coach Dobbs has done a terrific job in his first season at the helm. I have them beating Episcopal this week. Episcopal struggled last week against Baptist Prep in the Cantrell Cup, and so I'm going to give the victory to Atkins in this game. Rivercrest versus Harrisburg. Harrisburg's a team that has struggled the last few years. Rivercrest is a team, of course, coming off an appearance in the 4A state title game, and they have looked just as impressive as you could probably be to start off the season. Of course, mentioned their win over Class 4A Forest City last week. I'm going to give the victory to Rivercrest in this one. Risen versus Palestine Wheatley. Risen is a team that we have ranked in the top 10. Palestine Wheatley has had some impressive wins, including a win in their game against Cross County at the Pascal Bowl with Coach Pascal at Palestine Wheatley, the son of Coach Van Pascal at Cross County. And they had an impressive victory over Cross County. Looks like that team is one that could be on the rise. But I am going to pick Risen to get the victory in this game. And I'm going to predict that Risen starts off their season in conference play with another victory. Well, that's going to do it for Class 3A. We will be back next week for our next 3A episode of ASN Weekend Recap. For now, I'm Carson Ward signing off. Don't forget, follow Arkansas Sports Network on Facebook, YouTube, X, and Instagram. We are all over the place on social media, so don't forget to give us a follow, like, and subscribe on YouTube, hit the notification bell, all that stuff. And we will be back with Class 4A before the conference play starts this week.